This podcast and all of its content is not intended to be medical advice and is meant only for general discussion and opinions on topics of interest that may even be highly controversial. Always consult your physician for medical advice.
Welcome to the SoulMirror Experiences podcast, where we encourage the exploration of our souls, ranging from meditations to discussions with professionals on all things related to whole wellness. We're your hosts,
Rett
and Kat, coming to you with
cutting-edge topics on spirituality and consciousness
and some weird-ass stuff
that might just blow your mind. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SoulMirror Experiences podcast. I almost forgot the words because it's long.
It's a new business.
Really
we're still getting used to this, right?
That's right. I'm Rett, and this is
Kat.
And we'll introduce ourselves in a little bit, but we thought it might be good to talk about why the podcast and what it's about. A lot of people are into whole wellness these days. And what does that even mean?
Yeah, I think we should clarify it because whole wellness is kind of a term that we coined because it's a little bit like holistic, but not quite. I think that it's a little bit of a balance of the medical model, healthy habits, psychology, that sort of thing, and cultural medicine.
Amen. It's also, people talk about spirituality and what is health. There's a lot of people talking about manifesting your destiny and finding happiness, goal setting, and all the alternative healing that's out there with cultural medicines. There's so much to explore.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, essential oils, even in and of itself, is a whole topic that we can discuss and how people use it differently in their lives, because some people just use it as like, oh, geez, that smells good. And then other people believe it'll heal cancer. I mean, who knows?
I rub it all over my body.
Every day.
Every hour.
Every hour.
Peppermint.
That is expensive, man.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about this.
You can't smell it right
habit.
now because I use it as shampoo. I mean, there's also some weird things that we could talk about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, that was weird.
Well,
we need to talk about that at some point, but
don't knock it until you try it. Okay.
Okay. Well, no, okay, but I've done it. I've done essential oils all over my face.
Right. But yes, it's true. I mean, there's like things that are considered taboo, maybe. Spiritual experiences. There's a whole avenue that people don't like.
I don't know if taboo is the right word to say, because I mean, maybe taboo in some places, but it's more just kind of like what anime was.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in high school and college
and sushi.
And sushi. Yeah. Using chopsticks. The fact that I know how to use chopsticks, I remember being embarrassed if people found out about that. And it wasn't because there's anything wrong about it. It's not taboo, but it was just what are the cool kids doing?
That is interesting.
That's a whole different thing. All right, we should introduce ourselves. I am Kat, and I don't know, we could say I'm the Nordic goddess here. I do a lot of things. I most likely have inattentive ADHD. I think that leads to a little bit of an addiction to creativity, and you could probably say I'm a serial entrepreneur. And that's what brought on this podcast, I guess, is just that I had an idea. Me and Rhett met, and I was like, dude, we should do this. And he was like, I don't know.
Did I say I don't know?
I don't know.
No, I was all in on that. Are you kidding me?
You were all in?
Yeah.
But I think you were just all in hypothetically, and I was like, no, let's legit do this.
I guess it's good we establish this now.
Yes, yeah. We need to talk about this right now.
Okay.
This podcast is all about authenticity and being open. And so in introducing myself, let me just tell you, we're going to talk a whole buttload later, and you will get to know both of us more intimately in each podcast episode. And even in our individual episodes, we're each going to be posting individually as well as together and interviewing other people. So we're going to keep this brief, but essentially what you need to know is that I am an extroverted, eccentric individual that's kind of granola and really into the arts and wellness and bringing all of that together. I am a historian and an author and an artist. There's a lot going on there, but I would say right now, in the context of this, I am focused on lifestyle change, wellness, recovery, yoga, meditation, healthy habits, that sort of thing.
And you have yoga certification, the master yoga, is it?
Yeah, I'm a 200-hour and a 500 hour. So I have about 10 years of teaching experience in various forms of movement, mostly trauma informed. So I'm not certified trauma informed, but really that's just a label. Experience wise, that is my emphasis and my specialty, is working with people who have various forms of physical or emotional trauma.
Okay. And that's what you professionally do right now, is working at the trauma center.
Yeah. So I work at a treatment facility for individuals with trauma, and they all have different life experience, and that's great. And I think it's beautiful. I'm very passionate about it for sure. And ultimately, I would say the goal is to open my own facility.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah. Rhett, we are here today to learn more about you, your book, your method, and we still need to introduce you. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to discuss your book.
Yeah, I'm Rhett, author and creator of the SoulMirror method. I have a lot of experience working with business creation and entrepreneurship, and also several years working directly with concussion patients.
So is this a completely different field for you?
Not necessarily, only because I've always liked writing, and I have experience working with people, and I feel like I've just always been an observer of life.
Right.
So I actually don't think it's necessarily different. It's more that I've just become more aware of things, and
And probably more willing to be authentic and expressive, like share these things that you've learned.
Definitely. My life journey, I was raised in a fundamental religion, which, again, I'm not here to bash religion. We're not here to bash religion or anything like that. But,
yeah, in fact, quite the opposite. We're here to say whatever works for you, you do that.
Right. Or we could start a church, actually.
Oh, geez, no.
Well, I mean, people would pay tithing, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, we'll think about it. No, but...
Jack will start a church.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he could. Church of Jack. He would love that, actually. Just give him cat treats all day. So I feel like my whole life I lived in a certain way to please other people, or to it's because it's what I was told is the right way, or this or that. And so the SoulMirror method really is about finding authenticity and finding empowerment through authenticity. So my life path has been really interesting. You could even call it, like, I don't know, the hero's journey, where then you have this major fall in the middle of your life. And
oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so it's been an exciting journey, I have to say.
Yeah. And in some ways, you almost wouldn't trade any of those experiences that you could label as negative or unpleasant, because that's what brought you here. That's what birthed your baby, right? I mean, labor is unpleasant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about a metaphor for life, quite literally.
Absolutely.
There is infinite potential to empower yourselves and explore your authenticity, be you. And that's where the name of this all comes from. It's the SoulMirror method, is your method of lifestyle, habit changing, journaling, planning, keeping track of your life, and creating a record to learn from.
Yeah. Yeah, the SoulMirror method, in coming up with that name and thinking about what that is, I think a lot of life, we spend our time focusing on looking outwards for answers and looking at, oh, my neighbors are this, or my parents raised me this way, so I need to be this or that. And we just do that a lot instead of think the answers are really all within ourselves. And we hear that, like, oh, the answers are in you. Okay, what does that mean? You can sit there and just think, I don't know. Now I need to go find some expert to tell me what to do, right?
Yeah, well, it's hard to put those things into words. And that's why I think it's so beautiful about your method. And also this book that you're writing is so incredible that, I don't know, you've just read clips of it to me. I'm super excited for it to come out so we can use it in our events and experiences. When are you planning on bringing that out to us?
Yeah, so the book will be out by the beginning of next year, 2022. And I guess a little bit about how that started. Really, journaling was sort of a process that, my sister got me on the idea of journaling. And so...
It's always the women.
It
right?
is. Actually,
the women journal. They're in touch with their feelings.
It truly is, actually. And so as a man, I'm actually really fascinated with the feminine side of things, because I feel like that's what the world actually needs more. I feel like feminine energy has not been understood. It has been not misappropriated. I don't know what the word I'm looking for.
Well, and I don't know that feminine energy is the best way to coin that. Like if we were to relabel feminine energy or masculine energy, what would you describe that as?
The balance of the universe is the way I would think it. Like,
Yeah, like yin and yang,
yeah,
basically.
absolutely. The yin and yang symbol is so amazing because, I mean, that could be an episode on itself. But
We'll get to it.
we will get to it. But generally speaking, the Soul Mirror Method book is about the whole universe really is a reflection of our own soul. Was it Gandhi? Well, I'm going to slaughter this, but I'll find out who said this. But someone said, we're like the cookies who forgot that we were part of the dough.
I hope I have a lot of chocolate chips in there.
Oh, yes.
Like I want to be that cookie that everyone
You're Nordic.
wants.
You're not. You don't have the brown.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. No, but
maybe,
white chocolate.
Oh, I'm white chocolate.
I'm just kidding. No, but like think about it. We all came from dough. Like we're all cookies, and sometimes we forget we all came from the same dough. And
oh, jeez.
I really slaughtered that. I'm sorry, Gandhi or whoever. I will find out who said that. But
yeah, we'll figure it out. I promise we're professionals. We are both
yes.
writers, and in any sort of written work that we do or publish, there will be citations. Don't worry. But this is kind of ad lib. We're just having fun here.
It is true. And so authenticity, the Soul Mirror Method is all about empowerment through authenticity. And that literally means like being who we really are. You always say, okay, I'm going to find myself. And I think actually life is that process. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things that get in the way. But truly, we talk about diversity. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is the beauty of life, is that literally when we are actually authentic, we don't just say the things we have to. We don't just be who we have to do. And actually, we don't even hide like who we are or mistakes. Like you make a mistake. That doesn't mean you are a mistake.
Right. And I think it's important to recognize that being authentic versus, oversharing. Like there's definitely a balance there. We want to have the right context, the right audience, and that sort of thing. And so in this podcast, we will be touching on some pretty sensitive topics, and we might get a little bit blunt, or if there's like some triggers in there, we'll warn you up front. But for the purpose of today, I believe that there is something that you need to share with us. Share a poem.
All right. Yeah, I wrote this poem actually like 5 years ago, and it was really interesting because I just found it again. It's called We Are the Stars. Would you like to actually read it? Because I think you have a better voice.
I think this is going to be a good experience because I'm going to be super authentic to you guys. This is the first time I'm reading this poem, and you get to witness my experience reading this. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that this is in your book, right?
Yeah, it'll be in my book too.
Awesome. Okay, so this was 5 years ago that you wrote this?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
Yeah, and this is where Soul Mirror came from. This is like the birth.
It's kind of like, I wasn't thinking about it then. There's something about synchronicities in life and things that happen that you didn't realize meant something. And it comes from like remembering. So journaling, if we're to be a little more pointed here, the Soul Mirror Method is a journaling system, and it is a journaling method. Socrates said there is no learning without remembering. And so when I started journaling, I started realizing, I'm like, wow, like, first of all, the fact that I'm doing a podcast talking about journaling, probably
it's
2
cute.
years ago,
it's
I would
hot.
never.
We'll just say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Juicy journaling. That's what I call it. I never thought like journaling.
That's your career now. Your career now is helping people find their feminine energies.
I guess that is true.
I mean, that's one way of putting it.
Yeah. Why not? When I originally thought of journaling, I thought, okay, I woke up and I made breakfast, and I just had no idea. It's like a log of things.
I mean, it's the same every day, right?
Right.
And so how do we make this unique?
So the unique part of it is I kind of like that juicy journaling because you're finding things that are meaningful in life. And there's a lot of things that are meaningful. So the system is going to kind of help us peak our awareness as to what is meaningful.
So it guides us.
It does.
It's a framework, and it's a method for us to be able to access those juicy details that we would want to pass on, or that we would want to reflect on later in our life.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about it is I even thought from the framework of, a lot of people think that their journal is for like their posterity. In this case, not necessarily so. I feel like journaling is just for me. I mean, people can say, I want this for posterity, but then you might sugarcoat it, or you might,
right.
You know what I mean? Say,
yeah. So, brings it back to authenticity,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. So part of the journaling process is really digging down, and it is acceptance, and it's not being afraid to look at who you are. It's not being afraid to look at, everyone has a shadow side. There's a lot of literature out there now about the shadow self.
The shadow self.
Yes.
I think we should definitely spend a whole podcast on that later.
We definitely could, because it's an amazing and actually really thought-provoking.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I agree. So the journaling process is about being aware so that you can learn. I think I realized that I lived almost a whole life of not thinking. I mean, honestly, it's like you're just kind of a robot. It's just less about living a life how I want to live it as compared to living it because you think that's how it's supposed to be.
So would you say that a more correct way of describing this journaling system is not necessarily the traditional recording for posterity, although that's an excellent application, but it's more about you reflecting on your life so far, what you've learned from it, and creating your path going forward?
Absolutely. Being aware of yourself, there's actually a whole adventure to be found. Now that I've journaled for over a year, I didn't think at first that would be anything special, but it was through that process that I started realizing this is amazing. There's so many things that I'm realizing and learning about myself. And same thing with like setting goals. So I created a star chart system for making goals, because a lot of people, when they make goals, it's this linear thing. And there is something said to be about, okay, envision the final thing and see it in detail, know what you want. There's power in that.
Linear makes sense to a lot of people. But I think what you're getting at is that you're creating a picture. There's imagery happening. It's all connected in some way to create who you are as a person. What you're doing is you're mapping out your identity on these star charts. And we will talk about the star charts after I read this poem, because now I'm excited. You got me literally, I mean, maybe literally because of my ramen, but literally drooling here. I'm on the edge of my seat. I need to read this thing.
People don't know that it's like 2 a.m. and we're both eating cup of noodles.
And there's like bags of like empty chip bags strewn across the room, and meanwhile Jack is just chilling like, just be quiet, I'm trying to sleep.
I know. Okay.
He's an old man.
He is.
They're supposed to be nocturnal.
He's like an old man in a young cat body.
that is everyone, right? Okay. All right. So this poem is called We Are the Stars, and you wrote this 5-6 years ago. I'm so excited. Here we go. Mysterious glitter sparkles strewn throughout infinite blackness, distant ghosts, million-year-old remnants of light, time capsules as ancient as the universe, faint flickering memories of ageless secrets and long-forgotten times. Somehow our hearts know from birth that these lone sentinels have always held the answers, that the heavens have always been a treasure trove of dreams and inspiration, the sparkling jewels of our imagination spread in a tapestry across the night sky. We examine them as a boundless cryptic puzzle, deriving constellations and harvesting raw meaning so that their light can shape the context of the land beneath our lives, blindly birthing gods that sanction our ambitions with supernatural authority. Nothing more than boiling balls of gas lighting the universe, yet nothing less than the illumination of our universal hope, an eternal mirror of our mind, a reflection of our most distant, inexplicable self. These are the pathways and tunnels to the ominous center of our soul that we can only approach through dreams, nightmares, and brilliant hindsight. Who are we without the stars to give light? And who are they without us to gaze upon them? The circular question is the answer. We are the stars. Oh my gosh.
That you read amazingly.
Dude, I like almost started crying. That was good.
Oh, wow.
That's good stuff.
Well, thanks for reading it.
That's your baby. This is where SoulMirror method came from. This is where it started. You reached that breaking point. You self-destructed. And then in those ashes, you were like, hell no. I'm alive. And I am going to live this life.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what this is. Okay, so it is time for us to take a quick break and enjoy this jingle. And we'll be back in a second to discuss in more detail star charting as a form of journaling.
See you in a bit.
All right. While you're waiting for us to come back, pop onto our Instagram and follow us at SoulMirror.Health, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Just a fun little fact to help you get to know my friend Rett, my homeboy, a little bit better. Guess what? That jingle is so catchy. He wrote that, like he just like picked up the thing and sent me a little like voice message, and he was like, "Hey, how does this sound?" And I was like, that sounds amazing. And you know, just so you know, he's kind of a musician.
I do love music.
Well, more than love music, you're kind of a freaking musical genius.
Well, that's
you just literally picked it up and you're like, it's done.
Well, that's very kind of you. Yes, we will be releasing albums too very shortly.
By Jack.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely.
He's our producer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that we jump right into this. I love journaling. I love drawing. I love doodling, all of that stuff. The arts is really important in processing trauma, but as well as like living our daily life and documenting everything that's important to us. So how can we use the Soul Mirror method, specifically star charting, to journal?
Right. So the journal system I created, it was sort of a process that just got hammered together because I had one journal, and then I thought it'd be really cool to track things like dreams. And so I kind of bought a different one because I wanted to track it differently. And throughout the whole process, I realized, man, this would be awesome if I could just like consolidate this into, like I could custom create my own type of thing. And so that's where the design came through. And the star charts specifically are one aspect of it. There's a lot to the whole system, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in at other episodes.
If you're in the in crowd, you'll know.
That's true. Yeah.
We're just going to give you a little like juicy tidbits.
Oh yeah. It's all about juicy.
If you want the full juiciness, I mean, if you want the full truffle.
That's right.
Then you have to come to our events.
That's very, very true. If you want all the vitamins, you got to know where to get it. We are going to be having events and retreats and experiences that are going to implement the whole experience, and also just get to know people and start empowering our lives. So
yeah, and really, if you're ready for change, this is what those events are. They're to help you establish these habits.
Absolutely.
Habits of wellness. All right, so star charting.
All right. So the star charts are one aspect of the journal where goal making is a very well talked about and discussed topic. A lot of people think about, I want to manifest my destiny and go places in life. So there's all these different methods I've seen for it. And as I was thinking about my life, there's a process where first I want to determine what my values are. And that's a whole process in and of itself. But once you understand like a direction you want to move in, the star charts help you because it's a visual representation of a starry sky. And you can place items. They either might be one-time goals or they might be habits. And you place them in clusters around on your chart. And as you reach them or as you accomplish either a certain habit or goal, you circle your star and then draw a line to the next one as you go. So it's meant to be nonlinear for a reason, and that is, we can't control everything. So on one hand, it is good to have a clear vision of what you want, but on the other hand, it's great to just know and sort of exist in a free space where you can move in a direction and basically enjoy the journey as compared to the destination, which is often talked about. There's a lot of truth to that. And,
so if I can pause you for just a minute, because we're both familiar with the method, but for our listeners and future peeps, they aren't yet familiar with this method. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that the star charting is not step one. But once you've accomplished whatever prerequisites in the method, including values and things like that, like establishing what is important to you is one of the major steps before this. Then can you approach this step of goals and memories and those juicy details and create your own constellation, your own picture in your own sky.
It's really meant to represent all the possibilities. And it's sort of like magical. You can look at your own sky and say, hey, what do these stars mean in my life? The journaling system itself is going to include thought-provoking method for looking into yourself, for tracking and keeping, an awareness of habits. And as I have developed it, I realize that we always change. And so as time goes on, you may want to track different things. You may become aware of different things in yourself. And so the journal is meant to help you encapsulate that and understand it. There's calendars in there, so as you discover yourself and discover new direction or meaning in your life, and synchronicities, which we'll talk about, you'll be able to chart that.
That's a big word.
Yes, synchronicities.
I mean, I know, like, synchronize.
Right.
We'll talk about it later, but will you just, for my benefit and
Sure.
our peeps' benefit, define it in, like, a short phrase?
Yeah, synchronicities are when you start noticing things in your life that either match up or something happened and then it happened again.
So like a pattern or a coincidence that happens over and over again. Can you give us an example of one in your life?
Well, okay. Actually, one that probably most people have experienced is you're thinking about someone and they call you. And you're like, well, I was just thinking about you. And yeah, I was thinking about you. That's a synchronicity. But they can be all kinds of things. They can also be a synchronicity with yourself where something happens a year ago and then a year later it happens again. And you say, oh my goodness, wait a minute. It could be symbolic too. I mean, I think when we start delving in and seeing all this symbolism in our own lives, you start to realize, like, wait a minute, there really is more to this life than, when you start looking within, you see that whole universe within you. The less we are looking for other people to tell us who we are, and the experts are great things. I mean, look, here we are telling people about a SoulMirror method, for example, but it's less about telling you, hey, you do this. And it's more like, look inside yourself and here's some tools that you can basically create your own thing.
Yeah. I mean, we're not there to say, like, this is the right way to do it. We're here to say, here's an option that worked for us. Yeah. And we would like to share that with you and take what resonates and leave what doesn't.
It's true. The SoulMirror method is kind of like a sandbox of lots of creative ideas and tools that you can use to...
But not a litter box.
Right. That's
just a sandbox.
That's for Jack. He creates a lot of brown constellations. Sandbox. Oh, wow. Anyway, how's that for an image for you? Now it's memorable. But yeah, that's what it's about.
I think that answered my question really well. You explained synchronicities in a way that as you were explaining it, I had moments come to my mind of like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's incredible to look back at my life and see how this pattern has come up multiple times in my life. And these experiences have all created this beautiful picture that is me today. And I think you could say the same thing.
Amen. Yeah, it's a fun experience. And I think there's so much adventure in life. And as we empower ourselves through authenticity, we unlock a whole new world that we didn't know was there. As we drop the shingles of what we think things are supposed to be like, we start actually doing things of our own accord. We start acting in our own way. We start bringing things into our life in a different way. And there's endless possibilities. That's what the star charts are about. You literally see a whole new world of possibilities open before your eyes and in your life. And we just have to be brave enough to actually see that and believe it. Believe it. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting that it's not just brave enough to do something, but before we do, we have to be brave enough to acknowledge its existence.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is hard. I mean, you hear people talk about how being brave isn't not being afraid. Being brave means you're afraid. You're freaking afraid. You want to run the opposite direction, and yet you still go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking inside ourselves is a scary thing. If you've ever looked at a mirror for long, as a child, we often do this. We stare at ourselves, and then we get freaked out.
Do we? I don't know if every child does.
I was the only one that did that. I thought, who is this? I'd look at the mirror and think, is that a real me or is that a fake me? And I'd like look in my eyes, and then it would scare the hell out of me. I'd be like, that's
so
freaky.
This is your own synchronicity that you're describing right now. Like, yeah. Did that actually happen?
It did when I was a kid.
Yeah. So SoulMirror actually happened when you were a kid.
Oh my goodness. This is live.
This is Inception.
This is live. It is. It actually did in a very interesting way.
Wow. This is genuine.
That's beautiful.
Genuine reactions.
We just had a live synchronicity. Yeah, it's true.
Talk about examples, man.
Well,
This is
yeah,
good.
I do. I think so. Looking at ourselves is uncomfortable, anyways. It can be, that is. And so I feel like a lot of people, well, okay, cluster B personality disorders like narcissism and borderline, I feel like are being too afraid to look at ourselves because we think there's something wrong with us. I think both, like, that's to me narcissistic things are, I don't want to be not good enough, so I'm so damn good, I'm better than everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, does it really just come from insecurity
Yeah.
and kind of this sense of denial?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a lot of scary stuff
Right.
that you're facing, and it really just gets to an extreme and becomes clinical.
Yes. And so it's pretty amazing because nobody, when you look inside yourself, and I mean nobody, is so bad that, unless you choose to be, that is, but that you're irredeemable or not good enough or whatever. So all you have to
Yeah.
do is choose to not be, really.
Yeah, and something we're really passionate about, this is just a side note, is rehabilitation and recovery, regardless of where you're coming from, where you're at right now. We believe that for the average person, for the extra overachiever, the SoulMirror method is excellent, right? Because it's all about developing balance in your life and self-reflection and healthiness.
Yeah.
That
That's
sounds
another,
weird,
yeah.
but taking it even to the next level of like, can we eventually take this to a demographic that is needing it?
Yeah.
You know, even more so for rehabilitation.
That's true.
And integration into society.
Even just men in general.
Men in general, men need
You know.
rehabilitation and
We
to
do.
integrate
Anyways,
into society.
We've got problems. Well, I think men for too long have like literally just, like quashing the feminine. It's not even a matter of just like women's rights. That's, of course, that's important. But I just mean feminine energy is just not. It needs to be understood. Yeah.
It needs to be understood. And
Yeah.
can I just tell you, like, one of the most attractive traits in a male for me is that they have that sense of vulnerability, that they can talk about their emotions, that they can get really sensitive, but also they have a really good sense of style. Like, not that they have to adhere to the latest trend or, designer, but more that how they dress, how they live their life and decorate their home, it like represents who they are.
Definitely hear that, man out there. That the Nordic goddess has spoken. So just, I don't know.
I'm single.
Start cleaning up. I don't know. Be vulnerable. Read Brene Brown right now.
Find Brown
Brene
for
Brown
the win.
and read it.
KonMari the shiz out of here.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm really curious. Can you use me as your guinea pig? Let's show our peeps what this is going to be like. If they come to one of our events, if they contact us or something like that, and we're working with them, like I gave you a real example of like, wow, what are synchronicities? And you answered that.
Yeah.
So if you were to choose one thing to work on with me, and it doesn't have to be with the star charts, but maybe values or something like that, what would you do?
Values, that might be another discussion. But how about just starting with something as simple
just
as
something small,
Yeah.
like just a little taste.
Okay, like a little taste would be, well, first we set our own limitations on ourselves.
Okay.
So a lot of times we don't think we do. And that's part of the examining our value system.
Wait, so what you're talking about is kind of like the distortions of our perception.
Yes, and it's also self-perception. So, we hear a lot about living in the now, in the present.
Yeah.
A lot of times we frame who we think we are or what we're going to do in our life based on our past. But how do we think about our past? Like, do we say, oh, I did this and I failed at this, so now I need to do better? Or someone, I have a good friend actually who I was talking with, and he said, well, when I was little, my mom said, oh, that other kid's really smart and a lot smarter than you. And it framed a whole lot of things in his life where even now as an adult, even professionally, sometimes the motivation is like, oh, yeah, I need to,
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you have two children that are very active and the parent comments on, oh, this child is more coordinated than the other child, and the child hears that, or even if they don't, like that frames the parent's perspective of their own child. and the child's perspective of themselves, suddenly they're like, man, I'm not coordinated. I can't do anything.
That's absolutely right. So, for example, is there anything you can think of now, a motivation or a way that you were living that was either coming out of a fear or a sense of lacking or a sense of obligation?
Okay, I think I know what you're saying. So what you're saying is, do I have any lifestyle habits or choices that I had been doing or am still doing that are imbalanced or unhealthy?
Yes. And those could be, coping skills or whatever, choices.
Yeah, I would say like probably mind reading. Mind reading is a big thing for me that I've been working on. And part of that just comes from feeling like I have to walk on eggshells, or I don't know how someone's going to react. And so then I try to mind read. So really it was a self-defense mechanism. It was something to survive. But in real life, in a healthy, balanced relationship, it actually creates conflict.
Okay, yeah. So again, in a journaling system, there's so many pages and there's so many days to think about all kinds of different things, right? That could be something you would just think about and just write and examine yourself and just say, hey, there's something I notice. Where did that come from? Why am I doing this? A lot of times just asking why I'm doing things can drastically change. We get into this habit mode of living our lives, and it can be success mode. It can be bad coping mechanism mode. It can be workaholic, or it could be escapeaholic. It could be anything.
Yeah. So this mind reading, then where does that go from here in determining values or whatever's next?
Okay. So then after you examine where that came from, does it come from a fear, a sense of obligation, or whatever? After you examine it down, if it's not from a place that is your true passion, if it's not something that... So in the brainstorming session, you will list down a lot of things that you are excited about.
Yeah.
And then you'll piece through all of those and actually sort of sense where they're coming from inside your soul.
Got it.
And it is a thinking process.
So then in that, you're listing things you're excited about, but does that come after determining what's unhealthy?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
You're right. We're trying to keep this in order here.
Yeah.
That is a challenge.
And we can always talk about this more in depth,
Yeah.
but if we're just focusing purely on that one
Yes.
maladaptive coping mechanism of mind reading, then from there, do I say, okay, it's coming from fear, and then what?
Yeah, the first thing we want to do is empty out space in our soul, which, again, going back to feminine and masculine energy, the feminine energy is all possibilities. And to have all possibilities, so it's very much looking at our past and understanding that we live now. So whatever we make of our past can always be a positive thing. It can. So it's clearing out that space, examining where certain behaviors come from. Once that is empty and we're in that loving space for ourselves, then we can start to see what behaviors don't serve us and then actually envision what new possibilities there might be. So it is very much getting rid of the old. That's the empowerment process. Right. Because otherwise we're just in like a routine mode. This is how I am and da-da-da.
Yeah, definitely. So we're getting rid of the broken record within our mind and our body, our physical, our emotional, psychological, spiritual habits, anything that is out of balance or unhealthy, not serving us or those around us.
Absolutely. Like with your mind reading, that's where the calendaring system could come in too. If that's something you wanted to track, you could use the calendaring system in the SoulMirror method to actually see the big trend on a calendar with your own color-coded system.
So I could really just give it a symbol and a color, and that would represent negative mind reading.
Right.
Or just mind reading in general, right? Because that would be more of the clinical, it's causing problems. And each day, whenever that happens, would I put down a separate shape on that day?
Yeah, you could put down a little
so like if it happened like 5 times and it caused issue of like an emotional reaction, then I would put 5 of that symbol on that day.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can actually even customize it to, I'm sure you'll have ideas as you use it that might, inspire you. And these will change, 1 year you might do that. You can do this to track positive things too. Like if I want to understand a way I'm living my life to represent a value that I've discovered in myself, that would be a way to track it as well. On the flip side, if you're in an abusive relationship, for example, and someone is abusing you, if you don't mark that calendar, there's a very good chance you're just letting it go and enabling
Right. And this would be a very safe way to do that. If you're in a situation where it isn't safe for them to know that
that's true,
that it's abusive, right? Or that you're trying to figure out how to get help or take something to court.
Mm-hmm.
You're using these symbols and these colors in a way to track something that they wouldn't have any idea what that means. They could look at that and be like, oh, you're on your period.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. So that's one way that you can use the method in the journal.
Cool. So then how do we take that back to charting with the mind reading specifically?
Yeah. So the star chart is actually representative of your positive possibilities, your empowerment. So
could I do the opposite?
You could.
Could I just do moments on a particular, and I could do multiple star charts, right? So this particular star chart focused on my mind reading could be the moments that I feel really empowered and I know that I'm not doing mind reading.
Yeah, you could put it on there, because if it's a habit and you say, I don't want to, if I can do this amount per week, then that's good enough. You do the low-hanging fruit. And then once you hit that target, you circle it. It just means you're actually being active in some direction. It doesn't mean you're a failure if you don't get it. It doesn't mean you have to improve that. It just means, hey, look, I'm actually living in a way that represents that I'm living my values. It could be like, hey, I want to eat less meat per week because I want to be a little more vegetarian. Cool. Hey, I'm going to try and get down to just 3 meals a week that have meat in it. That could be a star on your chart, for example. Whatever you want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we could apply it to so many different things. Anything from weight loss to diet to mental health. You could track your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
Or if you're trying to get pregnant, you're taking your temperature, things like that. There's a really fun visual way to track these things and these moments in your journey on that star chart during the tracking process. So you have the calendar where you're tracking with your symbols and things, and then on the other page you have your star chart where you could create this image of that journey. So it's not just this, and really, okay, let me clarify. So what I'm seeing in my mind is the yin and yang. We are seeing the calendar and the tracking is more of the masculine energy, and then the star charting is the feminine representation, because that's the artistic, the visual, the picture that you're creating with the data that is now on your calendar.
Yeah. And it's meant to be a perfect blend. It's meant to help you balance. It's like I kept getting messages that the truth is always in the middle. And if you look at the yin yang symbol, that wavy line in the middle is often called the way, because it's in the perfect balance. If you think about heaven and hell, goodness, like hell sounds terrible because you're burning up and, Satan's running around with a pitchfork stabbing you in the ass all the time. But
right. I mean, this is all or nothing, right?
Heaven sounds like
thinking.
Hell too, though, because you're sitting in a white robe in the most, everyone looks the same and you're just whispering in reverent tones, playing a harp. I mean, that sounds like hell too, honestly. So it's
maybe
like
there's cupids everywhere. Who knows?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I don't want a cupid hanging out,
right,
ready to shoot me any moment. Like,
that's true.
Who knows what's happening?
But
in there.
I think the happiness is in the middle of all that. Like I don't want to just have a life of not doing anything fun, but at the same time, I don't want to like just kill people and steal all their money because
Right. So what you're saying is that every moment in your life that is positive is not necessarily one extreme or the other. These moments could be bittersweet moments, but they had a really positive impact on you, or the way that you chose to react to that, even if it wasn't in the moment, but if it influenced the way you're choosing to take your path now in a positive way, then that could also be viewed as a positive thing on your star chart.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. So, and if we wanted to do something with a star chart, such as involving images.
Yeah.
Like maybe we want to take Polaroids and stick it in there.
Yeah.
Next to a word. Or maybe we need to expound and we want more than just a 1 or 3 word phrase on each star that is part of this constellation. Can we maybe write down a page number for our index to reference our journal?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, there's so many ways you can use them. They're basically meant to be so when you can look at it, you're always just mindful of being in the present. You're always seeing all the possibilities that are before you.
So it's like a picture of you plus all of the possible paths in front of you.
Yeah. and feel free to add them. Like, that's a part of the process, is to constantly look at them and to constantly be aware of yourself. And as your situations changes, you may have new things come to you.
And these charts it can go out of order.
Absolutely, 100%. There's almost no order until you start doing things. And it's great to every year redo them, because a lot of studies shown in the SoulMirror Method book, I do cite some studies that talk about that. We over-invest in a future that we think our values don't change or won't change. We think, yeah, I'm thinking the way I am now, and that's how I'll always be. So we over-invest in a future where if we realize that we're going to change, we're already thinking differently. We're already opening our minds. We're already going to see more possibilities. Mm-hmm. That's another inspiration for the star charts.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about the overachievers out there, just because I'm one of y'all. So yeah. Overachievers unite. But if an overachiever really wanted to go gung-ho on this star charting, you mentioned yearly. And in my mind, as an overachiever, I started to panic. I was like, well, no, wait. I have so much.
Yeah.
Like, can I do a new star chart every month or every season? Like, I mean, basically, there's no limit on this, right?
No, there's definitely no limit. Another thing that's in there is what I call like balance. Truth is in the middle, exercises. So that's another thing which we will do also on the retreats. It's a challenge because we all fall somewhere on these spectrums. There's a lot of different balance charts. Just taking the time to think about it, we can see where we are on that chart, because some people definitely are more like order. This is going to happen at 5 p.m. and this is going to happen at 6 p.m. And you know what? You could never convince that person like, oh no, this is how it has to be. It has to be order. Okay. But then there's other people who literally have no order and they're totally in the present, totally spontaneous. Being too far in either direction has its drawbacks and may not be the optimal path. And so there's a process of challenging yourself to say, am I too far? Where am I on this spectrum?
And do I balance my life with different levels on the spectrum and the opposite energy? You talk a lot in the beginning of this episode about how the feminine energy should be increased in everyone's life.
Yeah.
Not just the masculine, but you even in our personal conversations have argued that even the women and those who identify with feminine energies still need a little bit more. Will you explain a little bit more of that?
Yeah, like I believe there is a masculine and a feminine energy. Now, that's not to be confused. Like, a man can have feminine energy or, for example, be gay or homosexual. Totally fine, whatever. And a woman, likewise, could have masculine energy and identify with that. Because anyone
and be like transgender.
Totally fine. Yeah, transgender.
Like pansexual,
exactly.
All these things, bisexual. So what we're getting at then is the fact that when we're talking about masculine versus feminine energy, we're just using those as blanket terms that are easily identifiable.
I do think they represent creative forces of the universe. So I don't know what the correct words are or whatnot, but
and maybe we'll coin our own as we develop these episodes.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything to be feared, and it doesn't threaten anyone's sexuality or whatever. It absolutely can exist in all of us to each degree, but that balance. If one person is too orderly, maybe that's a masculine trait. Do this at 6 p.m., do that at 10 p.m., then can we really control everything in life, and is that healthy? And are we not being open and present in our moment to realize that, hey, maybe the optimal path won't be just what I predicted it would be by every hour. Likewise, the person who has no organization and is just only in the flow might not be taking action that would be beneficial to themselves. And taking action is important. So there's a balance, but that's part of the fun of it. And that's why there's so much to discover in ourselves. And that's why journaling in the SoulMirror method is so exciting. There's a whole adventure in us. There's villains in our own self. There's like heroes. There's adventures. When we start looking into our own soul, it's the most exciting thing ever.
Right. What we're doing is with the SoulMirror method, not only introspection, self-reflection, rehab, recovery, tracking, whatever it is, self-improvement, we are literally writing a book about ourselves. I mean, if you're looking to write an autobiography, this is probably the single most complete way to begin your autobiography.
Yeah.
Is literally the Soul Mirror method. And not because that's the intention. It happened quite by accident. I would say it's a synchronicity. Watch that, dude. Anyways, but I think I know several people that have talked about wanting to write their own autobiography, but they have no idea where to start. This is it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's the exciting part of it. That's in chapter 1. We don't need an expert from the other side of the world to tell us who we are. We can be an expert on ourselves.
Yeah, and we know it. We know it already. Like who we are is there. It's not about finding ourselves. It's not about like going out there into the world to find who we are. What I'm realizing through my yoga instruction and self-introspection is that really to find who we are is to, I don't know, you're already there. You just have to remember. You just have to remember your divine, like who is your soul? It's there already. It really just is. Let your light shine,
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we are going to wrap this episode up, and we wanted to talk about the topic in the next couple of podcasts for you. So we have episode 1, which is today, and we were talking about authenticity and star charting. Episode 2, it looks like...
Do we still want to decide? There's so much to choose from.
Oh, man.
I don't know. Anxiety?
And maybe this is something you guys can comment on and let us know. Comment on a post or DM us on Instagram or something, or on Facebook, and let us know which one you feel like you need most. Let's pick 3 options. So you pick an option, I'll pick an option.
Okay, something that's been on my mind is like trusting and unlocking your spiritual self. And that's because I was never really aware of what my real spiritual self was. Even growing up in the church system, I was kind of like, everyone dictated to me like, hey, this is the truth, here it is, and they shove it in your face.
So in the church system, what we're talking about is just Christianity in general, but really any religion, right?
Or just a group of people telling you what
you're supposed to think. Man.
Yeah, there you go, could be
like
anything.
Politicians, scientists, whatever.
Yeah, yep.
Right?
Yeah, and so then I realized the spirituality came from within me. Do I need someone else to tell me what the starry sky looks like up there? Do I need to look down at a book that someone wrote? Or can I just look at the sky myself and be connected to the universe?
Yeah, like most spiritual experiences and how you can access that spirituality within yourself, whatever you believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a big moment of vulnerability, and that would be a beautiful episode. So that's option 1, is trusting and unlocking your spiritual self. Second option, oh, dude, this is a rough one. I feel like we could talk about yin and yang, the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
Because we talked so much about that today and kind of implied that there's a lot more to that in the Soul Mirror method, but also in our personal experiences, our opinions. And I think there's a lot of things to discuss.
I do too.
Taboo things, maybe.
Yeah. Well, like spirit guides, that's an interesting one.
Oh,
I think that'd be a fun one.
That would be fun.
Or like labeling. That was when, labeling is huge too. That's another one.
Yeah.
Because defining ourselves, like, again, who defines us?
Well, like diagnoses, right? Diagnoses within mental health. And that would be a big one too. I mean, originally when we did the schedule, we were thinking, okay, episode 2, we're going to be talking about changing trends in spirituality, specifically stones and tarot.
Yeah.
And so half of it would be talking about one, and then we would talk about the other. Now, maybe that will still be episode 2. Who knows? But we would like to hear from you. So maybe we'll post on our Instagram story, and you guys can just DM us and let us know.
All righty.
Okay. Well, until next time, I'm really excited that we had you guys here today.
Same as well. I'm Rhett.
I'm Kat.
And we're here to rock your world. Okay.
Yeah. Go live your authentic life, man.
That's right. Empower yourself through authenticity, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace out. Thank you for joining us on our podcast today. If you enjoyed today's podcast, check us out on Instagram at SoulMirror.Health. Have a beautiful and blessed experience, and stay conscious.